everyone. My name is Kennedy Payne, and today we will be going over the summary of eugenics within the United States. So, what if the government had the power to decide who was fit to reproduce? In the beginning of this interview article titled Imbeciles Explores the Legacy of Eugenics in America, this idea is brought to light and it highlights Adam Cohen's book titled Imbeciles. This specific book covers the topic based on the true story of the 1927 Supreme Court case Buck versus Bell. The whole purpose of this presentation is to explore the themes and history talked about in Imbeciles and this NPR interview article, focusing on the legacy of eugenics within the United States. So, Adam Cohen is a journalist and a legal scholar. He is now the author of the book titled Imbeciles, and his whole book's focus is on the Supreme Court case involving American eugenics and the sterilization of Carrie Buck. Just for some context of eugenics within the United States, this idea was inspired by Darwinian concepts and the desire for social engineering. This whole focus was to control reproduction to quote-unquote improve societal genetics. There was widespread support on this movement, as Cohen explains, and he says that it's hard to imagine today, but it was such an enormous fad that it was in all of the popular magazines. He goes further to say that it was taught in hundreds of universities and all the best schools, such as Harvard and Berkeley. So, who is Carrie Buck? She was a young woman who was institutionalized for being labeled as feeble-minded. Her life included many hardships, and that included being taken in by a foster family, removed from her school, and further being raped by a relative of that same foster family. The case Buck versus Bell in 1927 was a pivotal case from the Supreme Court where the ruling allowed the state of Virginia to sterilize people labeled as imbeciles. The quote that I have inserted below, while it wasn't directly from Shell, and he said it in the interview article, this quote is actually from Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. It is included in the movie Judgment at Nuremberg, and it is basically his explanation as to why he thinks eugenics is good for the country. He says, 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. Do you recognize it now, Dr. Wyke? So, because of this ruling, in count, 70,000 individuals were sterilized under eugenic laws within the United States. And according to Cohen, he says, well, we think about 70,000, which is still an extraordinary number. But then there's an untold number who were just taken away, as Carrie Buck and her mother had been, and kept in colonies so that they could not reproduce. This population primarily consisted of vulnerable people, and that included the poor, disabled, and minorities. So, in relevance to today, it's important to recognize the dangers of pseudoscience combined with legal authority, and keep in mind how important it is to protect our individual rights and informed consent. Also keep in mind there is currently genetic engineering, reproductive control, and systemic biases within our healthcare today. In conclusion, just to recap everything we went over, this article covers the book released titled Imbeciles by Adam Cohen, and that shares the true story of Carrie Buck within the Buck versus Bell case. There was a heavy influence on eugenics within the United States law and policy, And please be aware of how important it is to remember our country's history so that prevention can be sought through in the future. I encourage everyone to look into reading imbeciles or perhaps investigate more about bioethics and civil rights. Thank you.